In the heart of the lush and vibrant village of Omu lived a young man named EDAN. This young man was the epitome of strength and good looks, standing out with his tall, muscular frame, dark, smooth skin, and eyes that shone with kindness and intelligence. EDAN was known for his hard work and dedication to his family and community, always willing to help. However, despite all his admirable qualities, EDAN kept a secret that had come to define his existence. Initially, he kept it to himself, thinking it was just a phase that would pass. But as he grew older, the reality of his situation became impossible to ignore. EDAN was often seen in the fields, working diligently under the embracing sun, his skin glistening with the sweat of effort. He always had a laugh on his face and a kind word for those who passed by. His presence was a constant source of motivation for the other young men in the village, who saw in him an example of strength and determination. However, when night fell and he retreated to the solitude of his room, the weight of his secret became unbearable. He felt torn between the public persona of a confident young man and the reality of his inner struggle. It all started when EDAN was a teenager. Like many boys his age, he began to experience erections, but his were different. His genital organ was abnormally large when erect, an attribute that quickly became a source of anxiety and confusion for him. EDAN's first encounter with a woman ended in disaster. The young woman whom he had courted with great respect and admiration was initially excited to be with him. However, when they attempted to become intimate, it became clear that her size made penetration impossible. The experience was painful and distressing for her, who ran away in tears. One afternoon, while working on the construction of a new well for the village, EDAN was approached by her childhood friend, Asa. She had braided hair that swayed gently in the breeze and eyes full of curiosity. "EDAN, you seem troubled lately. Is everything all right?" she asked, placing her hand gently on his shoulder. EDAN hesitated, feeling tempted to share her burden but fearing rejection. "I'm fine, Asa. Just tired from work," he replied, forcing a smile. Asa was unconvinced, but respected his desire for privacy, promising him that she would always be there for him. Soon, all the women knew about his unusual condition. Despite his good looks and hardworking nature, women began to avoid him. Mothers warned their daughters to stay away from him, and even the men of the village began to distance themselves, either out of pity or discomfort. EDAN tried to move on, but the shadow of that incident loomed over him. The memory of the traumatic moment was ever present, like a dark cloud obscuring his happiness. He began to distance himself from festivities and gatherings, fearing that his condition would be discovered. Every fake smile and forced laugh at celebrations was a painful reminder of his own loneliness. The murmurs and curious glances of the villagers added to his discomfort. He heard the whispers and saw the sidelong glances, each piercing his heart like a sharp arrow. EDAN felt a mixture of shame and hopelessness. At night, when he was alone in his room, his mind wandered through painful memories and frustrated dreams of a normal life. He longed for connection, for someone who would understand and accept him, but the fear of being judged kept him trapped in a cycle of isolation. "Why me?" he often asked himself. "Why did something so natural become my greatest curse?" EDAN had basic needs for acceptance and love. He desperately wanted to find someone with whom he could share his life, someone who would see beyond his physical condition and recognize the good man and hard worker he was. He wanted to be part of his community, to laugh and celebrate with others, but shame kept him away. One day, as he was working in the fields, concentrating on hard work to keep his painful thoughts away, one of the village elders, Baba Kofi, approached him. Baba Kofi was known for his wisdom and kindness, having counseled many young men over the years. "EDAN, my son," Baba Kofi began in a soft voice, "I have noticed that you have been avoiding celebrations and gatherings. Life should not be lived in the shadow of fear and shame," he said, placing a comforting hand on EDAN's shoulder. EDAN tried to smile, but could not hide the pain in her eyes. "Baba Kofi, I just don't feel comfortable at parties. I'm afraid of being judged, of being seen as different." Baba Kofi looked deep into EDAN's eyes, understanding the depth of her suffering. I know you carry a heavy burden, but remember there is more to life than our difficulties. You are more than your problem. Baba Kofi's words brought some comfort to EDAN, planting a seed of hope in her heart. He knew the old man was right, but it was still hard to believe that he could be more than his condition. However, Baba Kofi's compassion and wisdom gave him a small spark of hope that someday he might find acceptance and happiness. At that moment, EDAN began to see a small light at the end of the tunnel. She realized that her life did not need to be defined by her condition, and that perhaps, with time and the right support, she could find a path to peace and acceptance. She still felt fear and shame, but also a new determination not to let those feelings control her life. To deal with her growing loneliness, EDAN immersed herself in work. He spent most of his days in the fields, working tirelessly in the hot sun. The nights, however, were the hardest, when the silence and darkness brought with it an overwhelming sense of loneliness. One day, while working alone in the fields, he heard laughter and voices coming from the village. Curious, he approached and saw his friends celebrating the birth of the son of one of them. EDAN smiled sadly, feeling like a stranger in his own community. That evening, EDAN decided to visit the old tree on the outskirts of the village, a place she used to go when she needed peace. As she sat under the shade of the tree, she found Asa, her childhood friend, who was picking flowers for a ceremony. "EDAN, why are you so distant?" "I miss our friendship," she said, handing him a flower. EDAN sighed deeply, feeling the weight of her emotions. "Asa, you wouldn't understand. It's complicated," she replied, her eyes full of sadness. Asa took her hands firmly. "EDAN, I've always been here for you. You can trust me." This interaction rekindled a small flame of hope in EDAN's heart, which began to consider the possibility of finding someone who would truly accept him. EDAN's parents, heartbroken by their son's unusual condition, sought help from traditional healers and traveled to distant cities in search of a remedy, but to no avail. The healers offered various herbs and potions, but nothing could change the reality of his condition. Despite the love and support of his family, he felt increasingly isolated. Once, during one of these trips, EDAN's parents met a healer named Kofi, who is not only known for his healing skills, but also for his wisdom and advice. He listened carefully to EDAN's story and, after a long silence, said, "The healing you seek is not in herbs or potions, but in acceptance and true love. EDAN must learn to accept who he is and find someone who will love him for his essence, not for what he thinks he should be." Back in the village, EDAN's parents shared these words with him. "Son, we know this is hard for you, but we want you to know that we are here for you no matter what," his mother said, holding his hands tenderly. EDAN felt a knot in her chest, touched by her parents' unconditional love. Although the solution to his problems still seemed distant, he began to realize that the first step to finding peace was to accept himself. A few weeks after the visit to the healer, EDAN met a new woman in the village named Suri. She was a lovely young woman with a radiant smile and a friendly attitude. They met during a local fair, where EDAN was helping to set up the stalls. Suri approached asking for help fixing a stall that was about to collapse.
"Thank you, EDAN.
"I don't know what I would have done without your help," Suri said, looking up at him in admiration. EDAN felt an immediate connection and, for the first time in a long time, a hope that there might be a different future for him. They began spending more time together, walking around the village and sharing stories of their lives. Suri's easy laughter and positive spirit brought a new light into EDAN's life. One evening, after a particularly pleasant encounter, Suri invited EDAN to her home. EDAN, though nervous, felt that perhaps it was time to try again to find the intimacy she so desired. They talked for hours, and the connection between them seemed deep and true. However, when the moment of intimacy finally came, EDAN was once again gripped by the painful reality of her condition. Despite her best efforts, the situation quickly became uncomfortable and distressing for both of them. Suri, although sympathetic, could not hide her frustration and discomfort. "EDAN, I'm sorry, but I don't know if I can deal with this," she said tearfully. EDAN felt her heart break once again. He left Suri's house with an even heavier weight on his shoulders, feeling more isolated and desperate than ever. Frustration and shame consumed him, and he began to question whether he would ever find someone who could fully accept him. One day, an elderly woman named Mama Nika, known for her wisdom and kindness, visited EDAN's family. She had heard about his situation and offered a different perspective. "EDAN," she said gently, "your condition is unique, but it does not define you. You are a good man with a heart full of love. Don't let this challenge overshadow the wonderful person you are." She then said a prayer for him and gave her blessing to the young man. Mama Nika's words planted a seed of hope in EDAN's heart. She began to focus on her strengths and the things she loved. He became more involved in community activities, using his skills to help others and finding joy in his contributions. Gradually, he found peace within himself, accepting that his life might not follow the same path as his peers. At one such meeting, EDAN found a group of young people discussing a project to revitalize the village library. Feeling inspired, she offered to help. Her carpentry skills were extremely helpful, and she quickly became a key player in the execution of the project. Working on something so meaningful helped EDAN reconnect with the community and feel useful. While working in the library, EDAN met Ayana, a young woman who was also involved in the project. Ayana was different from the other women she had met. She was curious, kind, and had an empathy that made her special. They began to spend more time together, discussing ideas for the library and sharing stories about their lives. "EDAN, I've never seen you like this before," Ayana said one day as they were painting the library walls. "You seem to have so much passion and dedication. It's inspiring." EDAN smiled shyly, feeling appreciated and understood in a way she had never experienced before. This new friendship brought a renewed brightness to EDAN's life, showing her that perhaps she could find love and acceptance where she least expected it. Over time, EDAN and Ayana became closer. There was an undeniable chemistry between them, and EDAN began to feel hopeful that he could finally find someone who would accept him completely. However, he was still wary of revealing his secret, fearing rejection. One evening, after a long day of work at the library, Ayana invited EDAN to dinner at her house. They laughed and talked late into the night, and the intimacy between them grew. Ayana, sensing EDAN's reluctance to open up completely, decided to take the initiative. "EDAN, I sense that there is something you are holding back. I want you to know that you can trust me," Ayana said, holding his hand. EDAN hesitated, but felt that perhaps it was time to be honest. "Ayana, there is something about me that is difficult to share, something that has made me suffer for many years." He then told Ayana about his condition. Initially, Ayana was silent, processing the information. Although she tried to be understanding, EDAN could see the concern and discomfort in her eyes. Over the next few days, Ayana began to distance herself. Their conversations became shorter and their excuses for avoiding meetings more frequent. EDAN felt her heart break once again, recognizing the signs of rejection she so feared. Finally, Ayana decided to have an honest conversation with EDAN. "EDAN, you are an amazing person, and I really wanted to make this work, but I don't think I'm ready to deal with this situation. I need time to think." EDAN understood, but the pain of rejection was overwhelming. Ayana left to visit relatives in another village, and, over time, news about her became increasingly rare. EDAN learned that she had decided not to return to Omu, opting to start her life anew elsewhere. Years later, a new family moved to Omu. They brought with them a young girl named Nia, who had been through her own hardships. She was beautiful and strong, a spirit forged in adversity. Nia and EDAN crossed paths during a community event, and she was immediately impressed by her kindness and resilience. Unlike the other women in the village, Nia did not judge EDAN by the rumors she had heard. She saw the kindness in him and was drawn to his gentle nature. The first time they conversed, Nia was helping to serve food at a harvest celebration. EDAN, who was helping to set up the tents, picked up a tray of dishes she was carrying, and their gazes met. "Thanks for helping," she said with a warm smile. EDAN smiled back, feeling an instant connection. "It's my pleasure. You're new to the village, aren't you?"
"I'm EDAN."
Nia replied. Yes, I'm Nia. My family just moved here. Nice to meet you, EDAN. Over time, EDAN and Nia began to spend more time together. She was an excellent listener and always showed a genuine interest in EDAN's stories and experiences. During a sunset walk, Nia shared a part of her own story. My family moved around a lot because of my dad's job. That taught me to be strong and adapt, but it also made me appreciate the people I meet along the way, she said, looking out at the horizon. EDAN felt a deep admiration for Nia. For the first time, he began to believe that he could find someone who understood him completely. They spent time together, sharing stories and dreams. EDAN was cautious at first, but Nia's understanding and acceptance gradually broke down the barriers she had erected around her heart. In the weeks that followed, Nia and EDAN spent a lot of time together, sharing stories, laughing, and discovering a mutual respect and admiration for each other. EDAN found herself opening up to her in ways she had never done with anyone. She confessed her deepest fears and pains, and Nia listened with compassion and without judgment. One night, as they walked through the village market, Nia took EDAN's hand and stopped to look into his eyes. EDAN, I know what you are carrying is difficult, but I want you to know that I am here for you, always, no matter what. Nia's words touched EDAN's heart deeply, and she felt a relief she had never felt before. Thank you, Nia. You don't know how much this means to me, EDAN replied, gently squeezing her hand. Over time, EDAN began to notice that her relationship with Nia was changing her worldview. She began to participate more actively in community activities, now at Nia's side. Together, they organized events and worked on projects that benefited everyone. Nia's presence not only brought joy to EDAN's life, but also showed her that love and acceptance were possible, even with her imperfections. Their friendship blossomed, and the village began to notice the positive change in EDAN, admiring the strength and beauty of her relationship with Nia. Nia was a woman of great empathy and wisdom. She suggested that they could explore ways to be intimate that did not involve penetration, emphasizing the importance of emotional connection and mutual pleasure. With her guidance, EDAN began to see that love and intimacy could take many forms. Their relationship blossomed into a deep and lasting love, based on trust, respect, and understanding. The village of Omo was in an uproar with the news of EDAN's newfound happiness. While some still whispered and gossiped, others were inspired by her story, seeing that true love was about acceptance and finding joy in each other's presence, beyond physical limitations. EDAN and Nia's relationship not only brought happiness for them, but also began to transform the community's perception of what true love and acceptance is. They decided to start a project together to help the youth of the village who were facing their own struggles. Combining their skills and experiences, they created a community center where young people could receive counseling, emotional support, and learn new skills. I want this place to be a haven for those who feel different or isolated, EDAN said during the center's opening. Nia smiled proudly at her, knowing that together they were making a difference. The opening of the center not only helped many young people, but also cemented the village's respect and admiration for EDAN and Nia, showing that true love can transform lives and communities. Eventually, Nia and EDAN were married in a beautiful ceremony that brought the entire village together. Their union was celebrated as a testament to the power of love and acceptance. Although their journey had been filled with challenges, they emerged stronger, united by a love that transcended all obstacles. EDAN's life changed dramatically from that day forward. She found happiness and fulfillment with Nia, and her story became a sign of hope for others facing their own struggles. The village learned a valuable lesson about compassion and the importance of looking beyond superficial judgments to see a person's true value. EDAN and Nia lived happily together, their bond deepening with each passing year. And while EDAN's organ remained as it was, that no longer defined her life or her happiness. Instead, his life was defined by his kindness, his hard work, and the love he shared with the remarkable woman who saw him for who he really was. As it says in 1 Corinthians 13 verses 4-7, "Love is patient, love is kind. It does not envy, does not boast, is not puffed up. It does nothing wrong. does not seek its own, is not provoked, does not bear a grudge. Love delights not in evil, but rejoices in the truth. It excuses all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. May we follow EDAN and Nia's example, living a life guided by true love and faith in God, finding joy and purpose in every moment. As the years passed, the story of EDAN and Nia became a legend in the village of Omu. Children grew up listening to their stories, and young people found inspiration in their example. EDAN and Nia not only created a legacy of love and acceptance, but also left an indelible mark on the community. The couple continued to work at their community center, expanding their services and programs to encompass more areas of need. They organized skills workshops, emotional support sessions, and recreational activities that fostered camaraderie and wellness. EDAN became a mentor to many young people, sharing her wisdom and experience and offering a sympathetic ear to those in need. Nia, for her part, used her empathy and understanding to create a supportive and caring environment. Her ability to listen and offer words of comfort endeared her to everyone in the village. Together, EDAN and Nia created a space where everyone felt valued and accepted, regardless of their differences or challenges. EDAN and Nia's life was a continuous demonstration that true love knows no barriers. Through their relationship, they showed that mutual acceptance and respect are fundamental to building a full and meaningful life. They taught the village of Omu that every person has intrinsic value and that love and compassion are the most powerful forces to overcome any obstacle. In time, EDAN and Nia had children, and their home was filled with laughter and love. They raised their children with the same values of compassion, respect, and acceptance that had guided their own lives. Their children grew up seeing their parents' example and learned to value each person for their essence, not their appearances or limitations. EDAN and Nia's influence spread beyond the village of Omu. Other communities heard about their work and began implementing similar initiatives in their own regions. EDAN and Nia's story became a symbol of hope and resilience for many, reminding them that true love can transform lives and entire communities. EDAN and Nia lived a full and happy life, surrounded by love and gratitude. Although they faced challenges and difficulties, they always found strength in their love for each other and their faith in God. Their story was passed down from generation to generation, inspiring many to live with love, compassion, and acceptance. In the village of Omu, EDAN and Nia's legacy lived on, reminding everyone that the true value of a person lies in their heart and their ability to love and be loved. And so, EDAN and Nia's story became an eternal lesson that, with love and faith, anything is possible.